Begin.
Okay, so what do you feel is most significant and helpful information you learned from the metacognitive portion of our first unit? What do you guys think about that? What I thought was the most significant and what helped me the most understand it was how we need to be able to adjust to our new learning strategies. And I feel this way because the article that we read in class about our brains, it really helped demonstrate to me different strategies of learning to further explain the topic to us. I also feel that was like a big part of it. It helped us like learn new ways of learning and how we can think about that.
I think it was that the brain always has the opportunity to grow, so you can always be learning new things.
I agree with that, and I also think it's important that we learn new things because the technology that we use on a daily basis is always changing, so you must be prepared to adapt to it. I also think that Go ahead, Nate.
Yeah. I agree with Caitlin because when we read the article about everything inside our brains, it showed that if you learn more and remember more, if you use more strategies, and if you use more strategies.
Yeah. What do you guys think about it?
I think we need to we need to forget bad habits to implement better ones so we can learn better.
I think the article really helped about talking about like when you sleep, it helps clean out the brain and save that information.
Yeah, I agree. I also feel like the metacognitive unit really helped me as how to organize my time and when I have my energy, so I do my work when I have the most energy. Like in the time management is really about self-management article. It talked about how you can do your work and you're most productive, and you need to know when you're most productive. Like I'm most productive at night, so that's when I like doing things and getting things done. I also agree, to add on to that, another important thing that I learned from that was the sleep, how important sleep is for you, and how you want to get like a certain amount in a certain times of sleep. Yeah, I feel like if you sleep, have good hours of sleep, the next day you'll feel better, you'll learn better at school, and get more done.
Add on to that, I think that with more sleep, it'll be easier to learn things. They'll stay in your brain longer. It'll strengthen your pathways.
To add on to the strategies, organize your homework and have plenty of time to do it and don't be rushed.
What strategies and reading strategies were most helpful to you guys? Ethan, how do you think about that?
I think that like after you read your book and then you wrote down or drew a picture of what you read, it really helps summarize up a little.
I agree with that, and also elaborating on that, the more it's repeated and memorized, it will stick with you and it'll be easier to remember. And an example of that was when we read about the taxi drivers in London, how they have to memorize all of the streets to get to where they need to be instead of a GPS. That kind of shows that the more you practice things or stick with it, then it'll stick with you. Yeah, I also agree with that, and I think note taking I benefit from it a lot. Like whenever you take notes, you remember what you wrote down better, and it helps you contain the information. I feel. How do you think, Aiden?
I think note taking is really important, so you can go back and reread it and think about it more in depth.
I agree with that. And I think it's kind of funny because this kind of related to us in English class about how the more we read the stories and examples of all the way that you can memorize things, it helps you remember to that repetition will help you keep your thoughts.
Yeah, and in the article, listening note, taking strategies, it talks about how things that may be said in class, like what the teacher tells you, you could write that down as notes because you might not hear it again elsewhere and it could be on the test, so then you need to know it and contain that information that might not be elsewhere.
I agree with that, but then after that, the next day, if we go and talk about what we did the previous day, and it repeats it more than you know more.
Yeah.
What do you guys feel is the most significant and helpful information that you learned in the communication portion of the first unit?
Like how the brain functions and how your brain works throughout the day.
I agree with that, but I also would like to add that we learned a lot about body language and how that can be a huge communicator.
Yeah, I really feel like the nonverbal communication part of the lesson helped me taught how like people can show how they feel without actually having to talk about it. Instead, you can read it from their body emotions and like their presence.
Mm-hmm.
What do you guys think?
I think that good eye contact is good for learning and being able to understand what someone says.
I agree. Oh, sorry.
You can
Go ahead.
Add on to like having a good conversation. It's important to like eliminate distractions. You can pay as much attention as you can.
To add on to that, so I think it says something about phones, like even them like being on the table, it can like distract like the conversation and it like just makes it like you're disinterested.
I also agree with that. Like how your face emotions and your physical body, what you're doing. I think people can read how you're feeling or what you're thinking about just by like seeing you.
I think it's important to like maintain eye contact. So like if you weren't like watching what they were saying, you might get what I don't know how to explain it. You might like get the wrong denotation of what they're trying to like put off.
And to add on to that about eye contact, I also think it's important that we have eye contact because you can really tell someone's paying attention to you solely from their body language. So.
Yeah, to add on to that, I think like when people make eye contact, that shows that they're engaged in the conversation and maybe want to learn more or hear more about it.
I agree with that, and also think that like an example of that could be like when someone is sharing a presentation that they've done in class. It like shows that you're paying attention when you have. Well, no, I mean that when you're presenting, you need to have good eye contact and a loud voice to show that you're being meaningful and care about your presentation.
Yeah, I also agree a lot with that.
Do you have anything to add, Keegan?
A good firm handshake could also help in your communication.
What's something you guys have learned about yourself through the learner what is something you guys have learned about yourself learning?
Something that I've learned about myself is that having a well-maintained schedule and a positive attitude are crucial.
Yeah, I also agree. I feel like setting a schedule for myself makes sure I get my things done and I'm more motivated to get it done if I have the time that I want to do it.
And to add on to that, it also eliminates being stressed out, which we already experienced in school. So something as simple as having a good set schedule can help a lot.
With that, I think getting enough sleep will really help with like paying attention, so you can further yourself in your learning.
I agree that getting enough sleep and writing information down and reviewing it would be really helpful.
Yeah, I agree with that too. Like, sleep is a big factor in our learning, and I think it makes a difference in how we learn throughout the day.
And also, not being hungry during the day.
Yeah.
Help you learn.
I also feel like I need to have my distractions out of the way when I'm trying to get my work done. Like, if I have my phone, I just get distracted, or I talk to my friends, and so if I want to get something done, I have to make sure it's out of my way and I'm not thinking about it.
I agree with that, and I think that if you get enough sleep at night, that also can help you like get less distracted when you're functioning throughout the day, and it can help you function more properly.
I agree.
I also think that a positive attitude is good because there's like a secretary in our brains, and if you think that this is fun, then it'll be able to get inside your brain. You'll be able to learn it better.
How does literature reflect, evaluate, celebrate, and even shape the survival of humanity? What do you guys feel about that?
I feel that literature can reflect on humanity with, like, for an example, history pieces. They can show what happened, you can evaluate what happened, you can either celebrate what happened or change what you would do in the future now.
I agree with that. I also feel like literature has made a difference in our world. We learn from it. It's part of our everyday life, and it's something we use.
I think literature can reflect on like the survival of humanity and evaluate what happened in the past and how and can improve on it in the present.
And an example of that would be in the story we read, To Build a Fire. He made a mistake that cost him his life, and before he died, he reflected on his mistake, evaluated what he could have done differently, and he learned from it as well.
Yeah, I also agree. Like, that story was very, like, informative and taught me a lot about how you should always, like, evaluate what you're doing in your life and make sure you're taking chances that are smart and that you can think. What do you guys feel about that, Easton?
I think like literature can show people look at things and how they reflect on things and how some literature can like really give us strong emotions.
And some evidence for that could be in the story we read called The Seventh Man. He made a mistake that haunted him his whole life, even though it was not his fault. And it showed how he reflected on what he could have done differently, and how it shaped him for his whole life.
Yeah, I agree with that. Like, the survival of humanity, like in the story we have read, it talks a lot about how it's based on our responsibility and what we are doing. So we have to think about the cost of what we're doing and the possibilities or outcomes that could happen.
Do you or Aiden have anything taken out of it?
I think you should always like evaluate what you're doing and how it could affect like your family and friends.
When considering our text videos and discussions about themes surrounding survival, what can you apply to our situation in 2020?
I put that I can apply that people might feel survivor's guilt from the coronavirus this year, and you also can imply that this year has made many people feel very thankful that they're alive and doing well because many have died this year.
I also agree with that. Like, we have to be careful in what we're doing every day, and we have to think about others more than we had to in the past, with it being different for younger and older people with the coronavirus going around, and we just have to be careful and think about all the possible situations that could happen.
I think the concept of survival has really changed from like before COVID happened, because now we have to think about like wearing our masks and staying 6 feet apart. Before that, it was more about like in the wilderness and being able to fend for yourself.
I agree.
All right, great job. Outside circle, celebrate. What did the inside circle do well? Agreed and disagreed, yeah, okay.
They did a pretty good job of bringing others in on different.
Okay, yep, everyone was invited in, good. Hayden?
Everyone actually like said a lot of evidence and like what they believe.
Yeah, they took it back to evidence, not just their claim, good. Awesome. Okay, yeah, and let's talk about the connector statements. What about those? Is there anything we could improve upon? Hayden?
Like saying something other than I agree or I disagree.
Okay, and one more that we use a lot, even though it is totally effective, we can veer away from to add on to that, even though that's exactly what you're doing and that's fantastic. What are some other ways that we can do that? What are some other phrases, connector statements?
Continuing that statement.
What's that?
Continuing that statement.
Continuing that statement, that's good. I like that. What else? What are other ones that we use besides to add on?
I feel that.
Okay, yeah, even using the also, the word also, that's a connector. I also. Aniston had, oh shoot, now I can't remember what it was that Aniston used that I thought, oh, that was a good one. But we have other ones like in response to, more of the same, or another example is, or in addition to that. Okay, so using those adding on phrases. But you guys were doing such a good job of using connectors, so that's great. What are some other things that we could consider that the outside circle needs to consider so that their discussion can be even better?
Try to talk as much as possible.
Okay,
More conversation brought in.
say that again.
More conversation brought in.
Okay, bringing more of the conversation in. Okay, good. Peyton?
More like questions to boost the actual like main question they're talking.
Right, and I did point up here one time, what do you mean by that? Can you guys even see that? I think I'm gonna need to bring this up. I know the outside circle can't, but in the inside circle, can you see
Yeah, I
that?
can see
I'm gonna have to bring you closer this time. Next time, the more we do this, more of you look up, so which is awesome. And then I usually have a few ideas of statements that you can make to propel your conversation. But you guys did such a great job. Outside circles, could you hear them?
Yes.
Okay, so again, the outside circle, as you come in, we'll want you to keep the volume up. So let's do that quickly and quietly. Switch spots. Those of you on the inside, make sure you know, are you tracking discussion connector statements? Or are you tracking content, what people are saying?
I don't know.
You can track, discussion connector statements.
I'll start. Wait, are you in it? I'll start.
I'll read
Oh,
the first
I
one.
don't know. It's you're
I'll start
summarizing what?
I am.
Oh, yeah.
So I feel like everyone just
Okay, Megan Megan's, thank you for inviting Megan in. And she just asked a really good question. Do we have to start at question number 1?
No.
No.
You don't have to.
You don't have to.
But maybe special no first.
Okay, so you can start anywhere you want to. Can you connect to things that the first discussion connectors, or the discussion participants, said in theirs?
Can you re-say that?
Can you connect to anything that the first discussion participant said in your discussion? Yeah, you may. If you are like, oh, I loved what Aniston said about whatever it was, go ahead and enter that part of the conversation with this conversation, because we're all collectively, even though we're in two different rounds, collectively building our understanding of what we've learned this quarter so far. All right, so do we need a leader? Or is it?
Jay's starting.
You may lead.
What do you feel is the most significant helpful information you learned in the metacognition portion of our first unit?
I believe in this unit. The most important thing I learned was that you need to organize your work schedule around like your energy levels.
I agree with that. And I think that the metacognitive unit is how much room we have to grow, and there are many ways we can do it, and we are responsible for our growing and learning.
I would agree with that, because once you grow your learning, you bring your mind to a different place.
I agree with that as well, and I think multiple people learn differently, so people need to adapt on the way that they learn and like how they learn and the way that they do it.
How do you feel on the subject, Jalen?
I agree with it.
Why would you agree? What do you agree with necessarily?
People different, learning how to do it.
Can you talk a little louder, please?
Sorry. People learn in different ways. So like learning, I don't know. I can't explain that well.
Cody, how do you feel on the subject?
I agree with it because, like she said, that we all do learn different, and that some people are slower and some people are faster, and it just takes time.
Yeah, and you can grow your intelligence as many people can miss out on the chance to grow a stronger brain because they think they can't do it or that it's too hard. So that says that people learn different.
To piggyback off what Cody said, basically what she was saying is, or how I took it was, that we have different speeds of learning. So it's kind of what we're doing in the Socratic discussion with the outside people trying to retain the information while the inside people discuss the information.
So, what learning strategies or reading strategies most helped you in this unit?
I found the strategies of practicing it more, staying to your schedule is what helped me the most.
That also helped me, but another learning strategy I found was taking notes out of a larger portion of information. And this helped me get a bigger picture without writing, like long sentences and paragraphs.
I agree with you because I found that note taking helps you a lot, and also what Hopper said in the first discussion was that the information may not be presented anywhere else but your notes, so it's going to be easily accessible, and it's right there.
I agree with what Mercedes said about the schedule. I feel that way because it obligates you to push yourself and do things well and more on time.
Yeah, because based on what Megan was saying,
Kobe, what are your thoughts?
I agree with Hayden on everything because note taking could be good because if you forget what you learned that day, instead of emailing your teacher because it might take a while, it's easy. You can just get it and then you can read what you wrote and then do your work.
also note taking helps you not plagiarize, and it's just where you can put what you think and what you believe.
I agree with both because what Kobe said, note take, like you should forget what you say and then But if you forget like what you learned that day and then you go back to the notes, but if you also have a schedule to take the notes, then you just stay on time and have the notes.
Piggyback off like the note taking, basically what we're saying is that it gives us a source of preparation and understanding, and it's a source for effective learning.
I would have to agree with Matt Hayden that note taking is a very good strategy. Another one I would agree with would be the jigsaw strategy. It really helped me chunk the reading up into sections, and it helped me understand the reading better because I wasn't reading it in such a big manner.
The next question, what do you feel is the most significant and helpful information you learned in the communication portion of the first unit?
I think the most important is when it would, and the article face to face conversations. It said that you need to limit your distractions, and that just having a presence of your phone on the table, even upside down, really kind of shows that you may be disinterested in what they're trying to say.
I feel the most helpful thing in the communication portion was the slides telling you that people can interpret things in two ways they want to. Like if they don't make eye contact or they aren't paying attention to what people are saying.
To piggyback off that, I believe the most helpful information was that communication doesn't always have to be in a verbal way, and you can also get feedback without a response. Like with eye contact, if you don't make good eye contact, that means you are disinterested in the conversation.
I agree with that because I think the body signals are very much important because it shows to other people that you care so much about something or you feel a certain way about something just the way your body is like, positioned.
Some evidence from that was a nonverbal slideshow that Ms. Hartwick showed us, and it gave us examples like facial expressions, affect display posture, body language, silence, eye contact, and tone.
I believe that body language is big in communication because actions speak louder than words. And for like example, if you see someone do this to you or something, that they could be saying peace out, and they don't have to say anything for you to actually understand what they're trying to imply.
So to summarize this, body language is a huge key in communication, and your tone of voice, eye contact, and just how you say stuff.
Anyone else want to jump in and say how they feel on the topic?
Sharon, what is something you've learned about yourself as a learner through this unit?
My work done on time, and like Peyton said, get rid of all the distractions and turn my phone down and not be on all the time.
I really learned that sleeping is very important on how you can learn, and food intake, like Tegan said, if you're hungry, you may not be at your best ability due to lack of energy, and your mind's probably not going to be on what is being discussed in class because all you're thinking about is going to get some food.
In addition to what Peyton said, I also learned that you need lots of sleep to be a successful learner, and you also need to have a positive attitude, some emotional awareness, time management, limited distractions, taking notes, learning how to communicate verbally and non-verbally, and being aware that we can learn.
Something that I've learned about myself through this unit is that I need to do my homework as much as I can.
To add on to that, I feel that it takes time to develop a topic, and doing your homework and like reflecting off of those things can. I'm sorry. Like it takes time to develop things, and we all go at our own pace, and something.
And like during this global pandemic, we've had no choice but to learn and grow. and this gives them more opportunity to focus on our learning strategies and how we manage our time and communication skills.
I learned lots about the nonverbal languages and how significant they can be. The presentation nonverbal communication stated at least 15% of communication is presented through body language. Also, symbolic is nonverbal, which can show like religion or anything really in general without even speaking to someone. Also, verbal communications are important because they can help you better understand someone with like how they present their information with their tone or the wording that they use.
I would have to agree with Peyton that your body language and your tone of voice is very important in communication. It's something I've learned throughout this unit.
Anyone else have anything else they want to apply to the conversation?
The next question: how does literature reflect, evaluate, celebrate, and even shape the survival of humanity?
I believe that literature reflects human beliefs and ideas. Through literature, you can get an idea on how people understand the human life and what they need and want to actually survive.
I would have to agree with Peyton. I also agree that literature reflects on how people value beliefs, view society, and how people view the message of life. And many types of writing can help us evaluate the past and what is to come in the future.
And to go off of that, I saw or noticed that each of the authors had different points of view. Like one author had more of a formal thinking, while the other had a personal experience, and you can tell with their two different personalities that they had different ways of thinking. And so that I feel that it proves that it can reflect on the way that you think and how each individual has a different way of thinking on a certain topic.
In addition to what Megan said, and to build a fire, he learned the value of life and realized how much he wanted to stay alive.
Another piece of evidence that I not necessarily connected with, but used was in the cost of survival. It states in paragraph 4, sentence 1. Some people wind up in trouble because of bad luck, but others make dangerous choices. I put that piece of evidence because it says others make dangerous choices, which could show the ideas of that human and how they believe life is. Also, in the article, survival is your own responsibility. Paragraph 1 paragraph 1, sentence 2. I chose this piece of evidence because people choose to go on the adventure to Alaska to test their skills, and that's not really something that you have to have in your life to go and experience the wildlife, or it's not necessarily a need. It's more something you want to do that probably need more like relieve stress or just get your mind off of things.
With what Peyton said, literature opens our eyes to problems and it really puts focus on. And it makes us realize how the effects Earth has on people and our decisions.
Would you like to add anything else to the topic of how literature reflects and evaluates and celebrates and even shapes the survival of humanity?
Yeah, I'd like to add that kind of what you're saying. I agree with you that if you do want go, what's that?
Alaska.
Alaska. Yeah, that if you do go and you do have time to at least have some knowledge on what you are doing, because if you just go, then you're basically just risking yourself. And if you do get hurt, you might have to come help you. That you might take the risk of injuring them, and they might die in the process of helping you.
When considering our text videos and discussions about things surrounding survival, what can you apply to our situation in 2020?
I can apply the effects of what surviving feels like for everyone. And when you survive something very traumatic, you're not the only one who feels the effects. And you must respect everyone because you have no idea what they were going through.
I really like how you stated that because I had the similar thinking for. I can apply that everyone has different things to survive. For example, some people go on adventures because it brings happiness in their life. Based on class discussions we had, I feel like without exploration in our world, it would already be extinct. I believe this because without exploration and new findings, we would never progress in our economy and lives because we would never find the technology that we have today to even begin exploring even more, and it would just bring the world to a standstill. Nothing would ever progress.
All right, great conversation again. Outside circle, celebrate. What did the inside circle do? Well,
I think they had a lot of good conversation and they built off each other's thoughts and used a lot of good connections.
yeah, we had a new one for sure, piggyback, so that's great. And I should have added, you can hitchhike, you can take it further. I think Megan said something along that line. What was that?
Build on.
Yeah, build on. Yeah. All of those are great addition connector statements. So great job. What else did they do well?
You guys all, sorry, go ahead. You guys all did a good job of speaking and getting involved.
Yeah. What do you mean by that?
You guys all had a turn to speak and you all let each other talk and helped each other to get involved in the conversation.
Okay.
I agree with that. You guys brought each other in with the conversation and allowed more conversation to be had whenever you asked questions.
Good. Tegan, what were you gonna say?
A lot of summarizing.
Oh, yeah, the summarizing, and that helps because it helps make connections, more connections in our discussion, and puts like a little summary, like our posted paragraph summaries. It kind of does that for us in the conversation. Yes.
And then along with how you were going with the summaries, I feel like it really shows that you can move on to your next topic.
Yes.
Because you summarized what everyone's already talked about.
Yeah, it brings it to a close and opens up a new door. Yeah, that's very good. Anything else? All right, you guys did a fabulous job for your first time. This is fabulous. I want you now, all of you, to go back to your reflection, goal setting and reflection. And there are 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, actually 4 more questions that I want you to fill out. And I'll give you directions on those in just a minute. Give those directions for you, Nate. There we go.
I feel like